afternoon, good evening, everybody. Wherever you are, we hope it is good, and welcome to another edition of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Actually, someone on fire at Los Angeles, California. You're my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
You know, it's funny, Ray, is for those of you not watching this, this is how much of a geek I am. I'm floating my mug across the camera, and all I can think about is the opening to Star Trek, the original series. You know, when the Enterprise is flying.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, how big of a geek am I? Just being like, oh. But that's where my brain goes. Ray, great to be here with you. We're doing a shorter episode because it's going to be July 4th weekend when we release this. Also, I have a place I got to be this afternoon. But that does not excuse us from the DoorDash Dash of the week. This week, we're going quick. We're going to Wawa. Ray, I'm going to set this up for the audience right now. I'm going to the buy. Okay, we're getting producer Caitlin's getting some lunch. I'm getting a snack, getting a little snack wrap with some apple slices.
Nice.
Standard delivery rate, 15 to 25 minutes. Again, The rules of this competition, we're going with what DoorDash says, right? So I'm going to hit the place order button right now. Make sure it's coming to the office. It is. Place order has been selected. It is submitting the order. In a moment, my friends, DoorDash will deliver an accurate time, a window of time, if you will, where this DoorDash order will be delivered. And we will tell you on the show today, did the DoorDash Dash of the week get here on time? Ray, it arrives between 1:35 and 1:45 p.m. That is a variance of 15 to 25 minutes.
Yep.
All right. I'm not going to put a clock on. It's just, will it arrive at the window that it says?
Okay. I'll put a clock on it.
You put a clock on it. Ready? And this is it. Wawa is this week's DoorDash of the week. Oh, it kind of worked out there. All right, right. Let's dive in the episode because we got some cool topics. Obviously, the NHL, NBA seasons have concluded, so we have to give our thoughts on that. We've got some interesting Olympic news, and then some really cool UFC news, which we don't talk about.
We don't talk about UFC a lot. We have a great show for everybody today. It is a truncated, a DoorDash dashed kind of episode where it is a dashed episode.
Yes, this episode will end between the minutes of. We know when it has to end. You don't at home. You just enjoy the episode.
Yes, but yes,
sit there and enjoy it.
You're still going to get a full dose of geekdom for sure.
You will.
And again, as Lee mentioned, of course, have a happy and safe 4th of July weekend, everybody.
This is out before 4th of July. Happy birthday, America, and many happy returns.
Yes. Do not blow off your piece of your body with the fireworks. Do not hold on to them too long, like Jason Pierre-Paul, the former New York Giants and Baltimore Raven and Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive end. Yes. So be careful out there, be safe, but celebrate responsibly and listen to Geeks Who Like Sports while you're doing it. You can do that. I'm loud. I'm as loud as fireworks, so it works.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe you should come here and sit on my couch and play video games with me. We are approaching the 250th. All right, Emerald. Calm down, Emerald. We're approaching the 250th birthday of America. Not yet, but
yes, this is 248. 248 this year.
We're getting there. We weren't there for the bicentennial, but we will make it to the 250 mark.
Yeah, we were not there for the 1976.
No.
It was just before our time.
Just a bit outside.
Just about outside, yes. But as Lee mentioned, a lot going on. We're going to kick things off with some hockey and basketball news. We got the free agencies. And producer Caitlin just mentioned we also just passed 250 Geeks episodes.
Did we really? Wow.
Look at that.
High five over the airwaves. And
bam! All right, we just flew in across there we got a little ticker here almost on Zoom. It's actually just a chat, but anyway. NBA, NHL free agency. We're going to start off with the NHL. It was also the draft, which I didn't see a ton of surprises come out of the draft. I think Anaheim reached for that kid at number 3, Lee. I forget his name already.
As I say, Ray, all of the names we don't remember we'll know in 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely, right? These kids are now obviously going to go down to probably the AHL or some other level below.
Yeah, some of them go back to college, some of them go back to their junior team. Some of them are ready right away. They jump in training camp, and then if they're not ready, they go to the A. I mean, the first round draft picks typically are somewhat close to NHL ready, or they're good enough in their junior or collegiate leagues that they will be NHL ready upon graduation. Right. The big news with the draft, Ray, was that it took place in the Vegas Sphere, first live event out of the Sphere. And I got to say, they kind of nailed it. It was completely a new venue.
Job. They did a great
job. What I would consider futuristic. In the sense of, like, I'm watching this, it almost looked like it was out of a movie, like out of Minority Report or something like that. So they did a really great job. Again, the NHL, to their credit, always pushing technology forward from a professional sports league. They do this more than anyone else. Anyone else. And I've always appreciated that. They're a forward-thinking league.
Yeah, they're always trying to be at the forefront to help grow the game, right? And I think also, I mean, we're seeing that the ratings this year for the Stanley Cup were higher than they've been in a long time. They were higher than baseball. They were higher than
extremely high.
Yeah, they were very, very high. So I mean, that's great for them, especially considering. I mean, look, I get that there's nothing else to do in Edmonton, but it's not like Edmonton's a really big city, right? There's not 16 million people in Edmonton watching, but there are a lot of people watching the Stanley Cup, even for two teams that aren't considered.
It is the power of a Game 7. It's the power of a dramatic Game 7.
Yes.
And also, let's be honest. I mean, McDavid is the face of the league. So I think what you got here was every single hockey fan in the country was watching. And I think you got a lot of other fans watching. Look, people like Snoop Dogg, Shaquille O'Neal, they're big hockey fans, right? And they've been, and Charles Barkley, excuse me, huge hockey fans. And I think that you're seeing the audience draw over. It's also on ESPN, which just lends itself to a larger audience. So NHL making smart moves. Everybody's been criticizing ESPN. Yes, there is a lot to work on there, but it has been it's good to have them back on ESPN when you think about live sporting events in hockey. But yeah, the draft went very well. I did want to give a note to. I've been asked this question, Ray, more than I want to admit, but I was asked it so much that I wanted to put it out here. I was asked, why did Utah not get an expansion draft? Because they're not an expansion team.
It's just moving one team to another place.
They're the Arizona
They already have
Coyotes.
a roster of players.
Right. You only get an expansion draft if you're a new team. So they or an expansion team. So yes, it is the Arizona Coyotes in a new location called the Utah Yeti, although they're not going to say that. But that is why there's no expansion draft. They're just naturally fit into the draft wherever Phoenix was or Arizona was. That's what they have.
Yeah, they might have accidentally leaked during the draft that they're going to call themselves the Yeti.
Definitely going to be the Yeti. I love their draft pick of TJ Iginla. Great name,
Jerome Iginla's son. Yes, which
drafted
also makes us
Jerome, who's a Hall
makes
of
us
Famer.
feel old now, as the kids of the players we watched growing up are now being drafted.
A lot of them, Kachuk's everything. But Kachuk just won a Stanley Cup. I mean, I watched Keith Kachuk play most of my youth, but. I thought that was a cool move to pick that family name to go to Utah. I thought that was a strong pick. The rest of the draft somewhat went number one overall was obviously everybody knew that was going to happen. 3,
Celebrini, for the Sharks.
We all knew that there was no question there.
The surprise in the early part was the Ducks with Bennett Seneke, which was
we'll see what happens.
Searching for earlier.
I'll remind everybody listening, and people don't believe me, 50% of draft picks do not make it to the pro level. If half of them, it is always a lottery. Now, if you have the number 1, number 2, number 3 pick, you might go, oh, well, that's a shoo-in. Never. Never.
Your odds are probably better. Like you miss less with those.
Yes,
for sure. But I think also, even Seneke, the way he reacted, like he was going to be a first round pick, right? Like there was every project. He was never going to slip past I think 15, but most people had him going 12 or 13.
Right.
And there was a couple of folks who he could go higher, and he went 3, and everybody was like, I mean, look, Anaheim has a glut of young, really great forwards. He just adds more depth to that, but the Ducks have a lot of other pieces they need before they become very competitive again.
Absolutely. And I'll, everybody's high up on Zegras, and look, Zegras is a good player, but he's not a great player. And that's one of those things. He's done a few Michigans, and everybody looks at the Ducks like, oh, I got the overrated. And I don't mean that in a negative way towards him. I just I think he is. But look, we're rounding out the NHL draft. I thought the coolest part was, I can't remember the kid's name, but it was a late pick by the Minnesota Wild, and he went up right to Bill Guerin, their GM, and he said, I just want you to know you just got the biggest steal of this entire draft. And I love the guts on a kid to go up to Bill Guerin, multiple Stanley Cup champion, GM of the Minnesota Wild, and say, I'm Tom Brady. I mean, that's basically what he did. So good on that kid. And there's a great clip of Bill Guerin going, I love that. I love that he did that. Now that kid better make the NHL and win 7 Stanley Cups, or no one's going to remember your name.
Well, I wouldn't say even 7, but he better deliver. If he delivers a cup to Minnesota, I think they'd be thrilled.
Ray, quick DoorDash Dash of the Week update from Wawa. Picking up the order, the time now has been amended to 1:36 to 1:41. So if I'm not mistaken,
they're on pace. Yeah, that's
they've given themselves a minute extra, but they've cut down on the arrival time segment. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
We're at the 8-minute mark. We just hit the 8-minute mark on the timer.
The Dasher is about to arrive at Wawa. I'm looking at that. And it says picking up the order. Wawa's preparing the order. This is the key here, Ray, is the order ready? Can he just dive in, grab it, and leave?
Right.
Or does he have to wait? And Wawa's pretty good about that. So I think
that is true. Moving on from the draft part of the NHL to the free agency part. Free agency kicked off. My Rangers have not done. I think Chris Drury got caught sleeping.
There's not much you need to do. Okay.
I disagree, and maybe it's
you
just
guys
the fact
were
that,
very close to getting to the conference final.
The thing is to me, we need another number one winger. And we traded with Pittsburgh for Riley Smith. No, we need a top line with Kreider and Zibanejad. We need somebody, and I don't think Riley Smith is that guy.
I don't agree with you. I think you need healthy defensemen, and I think you're.
Well, they signed Sam Carrick away from Edmonton, which was nice. But to me, at the end, he's basically replacing Gustafsson.
They're very, very close, and like I said, like the what I saw there was your Norris Trophy defenseman was severely injured.
Yeah.
And your top players failed miserably to execute, which they need to learn from, because there's no replacing your top players at this point.
The sad thing is that we've been saying that now for, I think, 3 years in a row.
Okay. And freaking New York mentality. 31 other teams have been saying that too. Listen to me. They're really, really close. It's never a guarantee to win. The window is very much open. And in my opinion, looking at that team, it's not about making huge splash moves. That's the mistakes the Rangers have always made in the past. It's you got a good team, get healthy. Get healthy. Adam Fox being injured is devastating. It's a goal a game. I mean, it's a point a game. I think that's fair.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
And you win that series with that.
Right.
So it's one of those things of, like, I look at Florida last year in the Cup final, severely injured, and they couldn't compete against Vegas. Now they were severely healthy. And they almost ruined their lives, but they didn't. They figured it out at the end. So I don't think the Rangers need to make big splash moves. I think you need small maneuvering right now to get them to where they need to be. And they're doing that.
Speaking of Florida, trying to keep their core together after winning the Cup, Sam Reinhart, one of the biggest deals on free agency, 8 years, $69 million to stay with the Cats down there in Sunrise.
That tells you what they mean to him.
Yeah. So that's a huge deal. Also quickly jumping in and really trying to snatch up as many people as possible. How about Nashville? 3 massive signings right off the bat. Stephen Stamkos, Brady Skay, this defenseman from Carolina, whose name I could never say even when he was with Rangers.
Formerly Ranger,
and Marcia So from Vegas, all joining Nashville in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this right now: no one's going to make a bigger splash in the free agency now than that. Okay. Yeah. The other thing too is this: when you look at Nashville and you look at the division they're in the Western Conference, first off, kind of a brilliant move by Stamkos to go there. It's not too far from Tampa, and it's in the other conference.
Right.
You don't get that typically. You usually have to go across the country, but that's about as close as you can get outside, Carolina. I think that I wouldn't be surprised. I think Nashville might be the closest team to Tampa. I'd have to look at a map.
I mean, outside of Florida, outside of Florida.
Outside of the state of Florida. Apologies.
Yeah.
But that might be the closest.
I mean, it's them or Carolina.
Yeah,
would probably be the closest to Tampa.
Well, I think Carolina's a little farther north than Nashville, but I could be wrong. We'll look at it.
Because you're kind of because Nashville's like this way, Carolina's this way.
Yeah.
So
that's why I said I think that Nashville or Carolina might be a little further away from Tampa.
Yeah, it
depends.
Yeah,
but I think the only other team division wise that's in a different conference, I think Detroit's really close, obviously, to Chicago. But anyway, good move by Stamkos to go to the Western Conference. And when you look at Nashville, Ray, they're kind of the 4th team in that conference, right? When you look at the other teams, it's like there's the Dallas, there's the Colorado. I'm not Colorado, so there's Dallas is there, and a few other teams. And there's Colorado, and it's like they just made the moves to win the Stanley Cup or at least compete for the Stanley Cup. You bring in 2 proven Cup champions now. I mean, and that is something that is missing on that roster. That to me that's the blockbuster move to go and win the Cup. Right. Yeah. And again, the Rangers are a better team than Nashville. Nashville was a team who needed to make that move. You bring Stephen Stamkos to the Rangers, which I don't think ever was going to happen. All right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too much. You know what I mean? And you're telling Zabinajad and you're telling those guys, you're not good enough. Right. So I like these moves by Nashville. I think it's pretty smart. Nashville, amazing city, amazing hockey city too. I love going there. So I'm kind of rooting for them a little bit. I think I'm liking these moves and I hope something happens.
Yeah.
Ray, DoorDash update. Asher
what
is leaving with the order. The time now 1:37 to 1:39. They've given themselves a 2-minute variance.
Wow. There you go.
That's gutsy.
Yeah.
All right, but he's moving. He's on his way here.
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry. Elizabeth is my driver. She's on her way here, and I think that if she gets here on time, she gets a little tip. That's what I think.
Oh, nice. A couple other moves going on around the league. Alexander Wenberg, of course, the Rangers traded for at the deadline, went to the Sharks. A lot of guys going to the Sharks. Eric Gustafson, former Ranger, went to Detroit. Patrick Kane, you mentioned Detroit. Patrick Kane also goes back to Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit's
right there. They're right there.
Yeah. Only big move that probably the Flyers have made, aside from signing a lot of their picks and whatnot, is that Eric Johnson has re-signed with them.
1 year, $1 million. I mean, he's a veteran defenseman, stabilizes that D-core. I mean, look, the huge deal by the Flyers is that Matvei Michkov is signed and coming to play here next year.
Yeah,
which is
a big
true
deal.
Number one player.
Right? Yeah, that's as big as signing a like you see, number one player.
That is like getting Connor Bedard. In fact, a lot of people said that if he lived in America, he'd be number 2 or number 1 potentially in the draft last year. So the Flyers getting exactly what they needed is a true top line player, right? It's not the final piece in any way. But when I look at the Flyers right now, you got Michkov coming in, who's going to be a game changer. It's like, in my opinion, could potentially be an Eric Lindros situation. All right, he's that good, right? Then you have Fedotov in net, who's now had an offseason. He's had some time to settle in America. I don't know. Like, I'm going to say it pretty honestly. I don't know what he can do, but if he can do what he's supposed to do, Flyers just improved pretty dramatically. All right. I think here's my play now. I'll do a really early season thing. I said last year they were going to flirt with a playoff spot. I think they're going to do the same thing this year, but they'll be in this time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they'll be able to they'll finish the marathon and be able to hold on to one of those, at least one of those wild cards. Producer Caitlin mentions it's Brady Skay. I thought it was. I've always gone back and forth. I've heard different people say it different ways, especially over at ESPN, because none of those guys know what they're talking about. I shouldn't say that. Sean McDonough, their play-by-play guy, doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not very good. They during the Stanley Cup. They did a comparison of how Doc Emrick used to do goals during the Stanley Cup and how McDonough did goals in the Stanley Cup. ESPN, I want to let you know I'm available. I'm available to do play-by-play for the hockey playoffs.
We've dropped off a little bit on the play-by-play, and Gary Thorne's too old to do it.
So, and it's a shame.
They'll find someone. There's plenty of good play-by-play guys out there in the NHL. They just gotta figure that out. I think they can do better. I mean, Doc Emrick, to be fair, probably the greatest of all time.
An all-time great.
All right. And this is a Flyers and a Rangers guy saying that, who was the old Devils announcer. So that's a massive compliment.
Yeah, 100%. Other quick news, Brandon Montour leaves Florida and goes to the Kraken, giving them some experience as they try to get back to the playoffs.
A lot of good moves.
A lot of good moves. I was going to say, is there anything else that stood out to you in free agency before we move over to the NBA?
No, not yet. I mean, you always see a lot of third, fourth line guys move around this time. And to me, those are always culture moves. But no, look, there's still several guys that are unsigned, but the big splashes have happened, I believe. The only thing I can't foresee is a huge trade or something like that, which is unlikely this time of year. So we'll see.
Yeah, Toronto got better on defense, which we've been saying they need to do for a while. Chris Tanev went to the Leafs, as well as Ekman Larson.
What team?
The team that always loses in the first round.
The Minnesota Wild. Got it.
The other team, the Eastern Conference team that always loses in the first round.
The Buffalo Sabres don't make the playoffs. The Toronto Maple Leafs, yes. Toronto, get your shit together, please.
Yeah,
please. This is enough now. You guys made the second round once. You got swept. It's like, and we're back where we started.
Yeah.
That's the other free agency. They're not going to keep that big four together. out there. So I have a feeling.
Where are they going to all go? Yeah, especially now that they just committed all this money to these two defensemen.
I just said Michkov again. You can see where my brain's at. But Mitch Marner is going to be moving. That might be a good pickup for the Rangers. But
I was about to say that might be the move, and that's why a lot of Ranger fans were disappointed because the rumors were the Rangers were going to trade Jacob Trouba to Detroit for a second-round pick. And it did not materialize.
I'm glad it didn't, to be honest with you. But
I mean, the thing is, if it did, I would have understood because it would have cleared up so much cap space for the Rangers.
Right.
And Trouba, I know he was hurt, but he definitely was more of a liability in the playoffs last year than not. And again, I know injuries.
We'll see. Stuff. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, and look, even what's it called was like the Edmonton Oilers were injured. So you got to stay healthy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is a big. It's a big deal.
Right. The time has come. We're going to talk about the NBA too real quick. Yes. It is 1:39. We are now in the window, and this person is about to arrive at the door. So our producer, Caitlin, is going to run downstairs. The handoff has to happen. All right? Before the clock runs out. Producer Caitlin, the time is now. We'll see what happens.
Dun, dun, dun.
The door is open. She is going downstairs. She has given me the condescending smile. So why do you make me do this smile? Then she stared back again. All right, they're outside, Ray. They're dropping the food off. They have 1 minute.
Their original estimation was 15 to 25 minutes, and right now on my clock, it's 19 minutes. So they are going to hit that original window.
They are.
It does.
Now I'm holding it. It says between 1:40 and 1:41. It is now 1:40, and there's someone at my front door, according to the ring.
Well, there you go.
The door has opened. This is so cool. The DoorDash dash of the week has arrived. And Ray, in record time, in my hand, exactly as it would say. Wawa, DoorDash.
1931.
The DoorDash dash of the week, bringing us food on our podcast weekly. A future sponsor. They don't know that yet, but we do.
Yes. Oh, yes, hopefully. All right.
Let's dig in.
Over. Yeah, you dig in. Let's move over to the NBA draft. Funny thing is, the biggest story out of the NBA draft probably happened in the second round, all the way down with the number 55 pick as Bronny James, LeBron's son, goes to the Lakers, kind of to no one's surprise. Really, there were rumors there were rumors that somebody would take Bronny and maybe use him as a bargaining chip, but he ends up going to the Lakers. And look, here's the thing: if Bronny is obviously going to be in his dad's shadow, but people say he's going to be a serviceable NBA player. And if that's true and you use a second-round pick on him, then that's a good value for the Lakers, especially at the end of the second round. And this is a great story, right? Like, honestly, it's the first father-son duo in NBA history, right? It's shades of Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. when the one was at the end of his career, the beginning of the other was at the beginning of his. I'm sure there's going to be some fun moments. I don't think the Lakers are going to win this year, but I think it's a good chance for LA to, again, have a massive storyline during the NBA regular season before they taper off and again, probably get ousted in the first round of the playoffs. So, but this will be a great experience for him playing with his dad. And if anything, it'll probably only accelerate his development. And the other big question is going to be, how is he going to be under new coach JJ Reddick and his 17 F-bombs during his opening press conference? It was an interesting, obviously he wasn't the Lakers' first choice. It was the coach out of UConn who then turned them down because he ended up getting a big raise. But it's going to be really interesting to see how all these personalities mesh, because you have LeBron, you have Reddick, you have LeBron's son. Obviously, you still have Anthony Davis for now. Like, you've got all these personalities. Supposedly, the Lakers are looking to sign a whole bunch of other free agents. And actually, I can really quickly look. Right now, the only one who returned is Max Christie. But like, moves are happening in the NBA. This Lakers squad, rife with drama potential. So we'll see what happens. Lee, what are your thoughts on the Bronny James?
It's an interesting situation. Right. It's unprecedented. You got to feel good for the guy to get to play for his kid. Ray, real quick, Caitlin and I have taken the wrong sandwiches. We both took a bite of each other's sandwiches. But I have no diseases and we will survive. Okay. The sandwich switch has happened.
That is the one downside of doing this on the podcast, is that you just grab the sandwich.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes. All right. We're going to survive here.
You will survive.
Anyway, look, I'm kind of rooting for Bronny and LeBron. As a father, I can see why this is special. In fact, LeBron renegotiated his deal now. There's a chance he might be waiting for his other boy to come up on that team as well. But Bronny has been pretty forward about, look, I'm not trying to be LeBron James's kid. I'm trying to be Bronny James, and he's looking to have a long-term career in the NBA. So we'll see what happens. JJ Reddick is awesome. Love him. Former Sixer, actually. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will. It'll be interesting to see. In other news, and also NBA free agency also started. We talked last week about my Knicks trading for Bridges. They also re-signed OG Anunoby to a 5-year, $212 million extension. Of course, making that move, the Knicks also are a little bit strapped for cash with the cap, and Isaiah Hartenstein, who really exploded on the scene this year, goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder and gets himself a 3-year deal. I think at almost like $28 million a year or something. Like, really, he got the bag. The dude, as the kids say, he went
chump
and he
change,
got that
man.
bag. Yeah,
chump
he got
change.
that bag. Yeah, and I just absolutely, $87 million deal. So for 3 years, according to ESPN. So yes, that's $29 million a year. Yeah, so a big deal there. And Lee, your Sixers have been making massive splashes in free agency, not just extending guys like Tyrese Maxey, but also signing Andre Drummond and Paul George away from the Clippers, who's going to keep James Harden of all people. Lee, what are your thoughts?
Trust the process, Ray.
That's a big deal to bring in Paul George.
It is.
Could he be what gets you over the hump?
Listen, their window is closing, but still open, and they need to get over the hump. They're good enough, and then something unfortunately always seems to happen at the last moment to hurt us, whether it's Embiid getting hurt or something else happening, or we're running into a really hot team. They got to do it now, because I'll tell you right now, if I'm Embiid, I'm going to start questioning, do I need to stay here? And that guy is an MVP. All right. So interesting moves. I'm glad to see them making moves. I hope they can do it. Because in the NBA, moves like that can get it done.
That's it. You bring in the one right player, you can quickly bring a franchise to the next level in the NBA. Other news: the Raptors give him a record deal to Scotty Barnes to keep him on a 5-year deal. Former Knick, who was traded in the regular season to the Raptors, Emmanuel Quickly, also gets a 5-year deal from Toronto. Kevin Love's still hanging around, signs a new 2-year deal with the Heat. And yeah, that's about it from what I can see. And Jason Tatum also a record, and not just a franchise record, I believe an NBA record, 5-year max extension, $315 million deal over 5 years. That's $63 million a year, Lee. That is a super max extension. It is the largest contract in NBA history. Yeah, just talk about chump change. Holy cow. So yeah, that's a big deal, but obviously that's what happens when you win a ring up in Boston on a contract year. So congrats to him.
Right. It'll be interesting. The shifts in the NBA should make it more interesting to watch next year.
Yes. Early power rankings actually have the Celtics still at the top, but the Knicks are actually listed at number 2 after the Bridges trade, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah, they're right there, man. You got hurt. It's possible.
Yeah, no. Then I mean, we said this obviously while we're doing our playoff analysis. Like if the Knicks had stayed healthy, they would have easily handled. They would have handled the Pacers.
Would have been they would have been against the Celtics.
Yes, and again, I even picked the Celtics, but at least they would have given the Celtics a series, whereas we knew the Pacers were just going to roll over.
Well, I think the decisions that they've made have been based on we knew we should have been here, but we're not good enough to beat the Celtics. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Speaking of seeing what happens, we're a couple of weeks from the Olympics starting in Paris. That's going to be interesting. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of stories out of there besides what we've gotten about the U.S. team having to bring air conditioners over to France because they don't believe in them over there.
What was funny is the way the article I saw, and there's a lot of them, is like USA defies climate change thing to bring air conditioners. And I was like, go screw yourself. What is that?
No.
What is that?
You're using a little bit more electricity, and now suddenly we're like the U.S. Olympic team is like,
America's at it again. It goes, and first off, like we're the only country doing that, right? Other countries are doing that, and it's the summer in Paris. It's not cool.
It's going to be 90 degrees plus every day, and these guys are going to be out in the sun every day racing and running.
I want to give the USOC credit for taking care of our athletes.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Oh, the climate.
In 40, I'll say this, in 4 years when they're out here in LA, everybody's gonna be begging for air conditioning.
Yeah, right. No, we should just return the favor. Actually, we've decided that
we're gonna pull all the air conditioning units out of every other country's hotels out here in LA. So this way they have to suffer. Like, oh, but this is what you guys wanted. Climate change
is always crap. So it's like I'm giving them credit for taking care of their athletes.
Yeah. No, for sure. And obviously climate change is a real thing, but I don't believe that the U.S. Olympic team running the air conditioners is what's going to destroy the world.
Yeah.
So,
yes, let's not get into it.
We're not,
we are aligned on that thought. Yes.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. But anyway, speaking of the Olympics,
do you believe in miracles?
You know what actually might destroy the world? You know what actually might destroy the world is the rise of AI. And I think it's going to be led by I think I'm going to call it right now. AI Al Michaels is going to go rogue. He's going to lead an uprising of AI, and he's going to call. Like you just said, he's going to call it a miracle every time he takes over a new place in the world. No, this I don't know if you folks have heard about this. Al Michaels, an AI Al Michaels, has been created by NBC to do personalized Olympic highlights when you tune in at the end of the day on Peacock, if you so choose. And Lee, this sounds like the dumbest freaking thing I've ever heard. What are your thoughts?
Let's just break down what it is, okay? They have had the computer. We'll just use. I'll sound old for today. Like they've had AI analyze Al Michaels' voice, which we know is not a new technology. They can analyze your voice and your speech patterns and recreate it. Okay, we've seen this across the board. Amazon Alexa has been doing this for a long time. It's easy to do, and basically the AI, which is not really AI, is that they're going to have the highlights at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're going to use the information that comes in, and it's going to output Al Michaels' voice reading, obviously, the highlights.
Yeah.
AI is taking over. Not really. It's a voice recognition software that's going to read, I'll say, AI-generated copy. All right?
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. It's okay.
No. I am waiting for its first major flub. However, I think there's going to be
interesting. Well, here's the thing: they're not going to let it. They're not going to. This is pre-produced, right? It's not live,
right?
To my knowledge, so I'm sure it's going to sound fine, and I'm sure people are like, oh my god, do you see what it can do? Now, listen. Here's the deal: Al Michaels is old. This is a guy cashing in on his likeness. Actors and actresses should have the same opportunity to do that. That's unfortunately not what was happening in Hollywood. That's why there were strikes.
Right.
Right. But, if I'm Al Michaels, I'm getting old. I don't want to do this forever. Take my voice. Give me $55 billion. Take my voice and do whatever you want. I'll live on forever.
Yeah.
All right. And no new broadcasters will come. And that's the end of broadcast. I mean, no, listen, it's the word I would use to describe this, Ray, for me is I'm very curious about it. Curious what happens. I'm curious how it goes across. Because if it does work, don't you have to bring back John Madden?
That's the thing.
Don't
and like
you have to
your point though, you're taking away future jobs.
I'm joking, obviously, about the John Madden thing. But yes. Yes and no. All right. I mean, the thing about technological changes, Ray, is that it creates new jobs too. The problem is it also kills jobs. But this is the thing that kills me with the AI argument today. This is nothing new. This has happened throughout history and time immemorial. Technology changes. They stopped using kerosene, and we used light bulbs. The whole industry died because of that.
Yeah.
Started using automobiles. Not as many horses in the United States as there used to be anymore. All right. Microwaves. I mean, you can go on and on. The internet alone, right? Yeah. It creates jobs. And again, I think that there's going to be value here too. The one thing is that I do not believe AI is adequate enough to be as creative as the human mind. Not yet. That would be true AI, right? Right now, and someone made this great point. All AI is it can read the entire internet at light speed and regurgitate something. It's not truly AI yet, right? And that's the thing that bugs me about them calling it AI. I mean, that's just what we're calling it, but it's not creating its own things.
Yes.
Only the human mind has been able to do that.
Yes.
When they accomplish that, we will call, Linda Hamilton, and we will find a place to hide.
Well, I was just about to say is that like, and then like the one AI that started to do that, they quickly pulled the plug on because
they did.
Yeah, they were going, oh,
no. It was making a language. It was making its own language. We don't know what that means. Dun,
yes.
dun, 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 dun.
It doesn't. It's nothing good. But at least Skynet will be remember you favorably when the time comes.
I will say this to you, Ray. A study did come out not too many years ago that I paid attention to that said with things like Amazon Alexa and talking to Siri on your phone or whatever your Hey Google thing, that you should be polite because should a time ever come, it's going to know who is nice to them. And what's funny is if you go up to an Alexa and say, hey, Alexa, thank you, hey, thanks so much for telling me that. And I'm like, you're welcome. Thanks so much for telling me that. You're welcome. I will remember you, Lee.
Yeah. And that's why Ray doesn't use Siri or Alexa or any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's just you being an old man, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I don't
just like, get off the lawn.
No, I can type it in to Google the same way.
Get off my lawn. That's what you sound like when I can type it in. I can't wait to 15 years from now. I can just type it in here on this thing. I don't need to ask Amazon. I don't need to ask. Back in my day, we had typewriters. You know what a typewriter is, Sonny?
I remember rotary phones, sir.
I had a rotary phone.
Yes.
And let me tell you something, Ray. It's really comforting being at my kitchen table and just being like, Alexa, what are the lyrics to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song? And she's like, yes, Lee, right away. It's pretty cool. It's like having C-3PO less annoying in your house. Human cyber relationship.
That's fair. We're gonna get into that.
Great technology.
We're gonna get into that turtle lyrics comment, by the way, next week or something.
I am just gonna say that things like Alexa and Siri are really great gifts to technology, and they really are just a precursor to robots in your house, walking around, answering questions, making your food. Because I'm gonna say it again, Ray. If
I had a robot that could make my food, I would be all for that.
In 30 years, remember this.
Well, I'll be dead before that.
You will not be dead. In 30 years, you're gonna call me and go, Lee. Yes, Ray. The robot won't make my dinner, and I just asked for eggs. Well, did you put eggs? Ray, do you have eggs? I told the robot to get the eggs. Did you tell Ray? Did Ray tell you to get the eggs? No, Ray is mistaken. He has Alzheimer's. Oh, robot, would you please go get the eggs? Yes.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me lose my mind in 30 years.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, you must suffer. Yeah. I'm just kidding, Ray. You don't lose your mind. You don't. To your credit, you don't know what's going. You don't know what's gone.
I have no idea what's going to happen.
You're just angry all the time, and your robot, your robot friend, who we'll name Felix for now, all right, is there to take care of you. Robot.
Very odd. Yeah, it'd be the odd couple.
No, joke aside, I'm going to be calling my son Logan the robot. Robot. Get over here, robot.
Oh goodness. Get over here. Get over here.
The last note. That you would program it to be like, robot, get over here.
Yeah.
The last note is that, and I think I said this once on the show before, and this is so true. I don't want AI to be creative so I can do my dishes. I want AI to do my dishes so I can be creative.
Yes.
That is the difference. That all the AI stuff that we have, it really is great. It really is helpful.
I want
I need something to do my dishes.
I want Mr. Handy from Fallout, like you said, to do my dishes and cook my meals as I go off and do other stuff. Do the chores, make my bed, vacuum the rug while I go write something.
What was the one from the Jetsons?
I can't believe I forget her name.
Hold on 1 second, right? Siri, who was the maid on the Jetsons? Rosie.
Was it Rose? Yeah, Rosie.
Right there.
Yeah,
look how quick that was. Now, you could have typed it in, Ray.
I did type it in. Yes, Alexa was faster than me on Google by scrolling. Yes.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Siri, thank you so much.
This is John Henry hitting iron spikes on the railroad against the machine, man. Yeah, I know. I get it.
I know. Embrace it. Embrace the chaos. Anyway, Al Michaels, do you believe in miracles? Because we salute you.
Yeah, well, Lee salutes you. Lee
salutes you.
Yes. I am still very hesitant. I will see. I am in a wait and see approach. We will see how he goes with the Olympics. I will test it out out of curiosity and then probably delete it very quickly. Anyway, final sports topic. This was just a fun thing. I thought this was really fascinating. Again, we're not big UFC guys. Nothing wrong with it or anything. It's just I don't want to pay $60 a month for all these pay-per-views and really don't care enough.
We have professional wrestling for free.
Right.
There's way better storylines.
I agree. But this was a great story. One of the co-main main event for UFC 303 was supposed to be Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. And Brian Ortega, the night before the fight, got a terrible stomach flu, was super, super sick. He tried to get better as fast as he could. The next day, the doctor said there's no way he can fight. He's going to be crapping all over the octagon. It's not going to, that's not what anybody wants to see. Maybe some people want to see, but not most people don't want to see that. But
not if it can be prevented. That's
exactly. Yeah. But it was taking place in Vegas, which of course where a lot of UFC events are. It's where one of their bigger gyms are and whatnot, bigger training facilities. And right down the street, another fighter who's in the same weight class, Dan Ige, called up the UFC guys and were like, "Don't cancel the fight. I can fight." And they're like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I can do it." They're like, "You've had no prep for Diego. Diego's had no prep for." He's like, "Yeah, but Diego's had no prep for me either." Like, he's like, "This will be a fun thing. This way, you give the people what they paid for. They give them another fight. This was a co-main event bout, right? This was the the penultimate bout of the night. You can't cancel that." So Dan, gets in his car. He drives down to the arena. Is in his fight gear. He gets weighed in. And they're like, "Yeah, you're in the weight class. You're good to go." And they fought. And Diego and Dan fought. And they fought to the time limit. They went the distance. The fight went the distance. Now, Diego did win. Diego did have the advantage because he was training for a fight. He was ready to go and whatnot. Not to say Dan wasn't training, but Diego was like in fight training mode. Diego might have had a slight edge. But credit to Dan Ige for coming in there last minute, saving the fight, maybe saving the pay-per-view, definitely giving people giving the people what they wanted, which is a good fight. And the fact that it went the distance, that says something. Because Lee, could you imagine if you're a fighter and you have 3 hours notice? Usually these guys have months notice to prepare for a fight like this.
Well, I think it tells you the character of these fighters that they're willing to jump in and do something like this. Also, you gotta give Ige some credit for seeing the opportunity here, putting his name on the main bout. He puts his name right in the hat. Now this guy's gonna have a career because of this.
Yep.
I think it also shows you how in shape these fighters are all the time. Right.
Yes.
And look, there's a difference between main event shape and just jumping in.
Sure.
But look, what a brilliant move and what a great character move. It's very Rocky-esque. He went the distance.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the win. That's all he needed to do to win.
Yeah.
Right?
And to your point now, he is, if he wasn't before, he's definitely more of a household name than he was before, because now here he is being exposed to all these people on this pay-per-view who had already purchased it.
Right.
Right.
But Ray, listen, I already know how this plays out. So he went the distance. He didn't win. Soon, Lopez is going to come back and go, "Hey, listen, we got to fight again, chump." So then they fight again. Ige wins. Then some guy from his past, some guy, we'll just call him Rubber Bang, comes out and he insults Ige's wife. So then he beats Ige, takes the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Ige, he's really scared, right? Guess who comes to help him train? Lopez. And so Lopez teaches Ige how to fight. He beats Rubber Bang. And then the weirdest thing happens, Ray. A guy comes from Russia to fight, kills Lopez, kills his friend now, Lopez, at which point Ige has to fight him for the nation's honor. It's just, we're going to call it World War III. The guy's name is Bobby Lee. It's Igor Draco.
Bravo.
Anyway, that happens. And then, Ige gets old and he has a friend, Tommy Fun, come by. And Ige's got a son by this point. He's got to fight Tommy in the street, Ray, in front of a SEPTA bus, right? Then, Ray, many years go by. And then a movie is going to come out. It's going to be called, the fight's going to be called Dan Ige. And then he has to fight a well-known boxer in an okay match. And then many years later, Ray, guess what? Lopez had a son out of wedlock. And that kid comes back, and guess who he fights, Ray? He fights Igor Draco's kid in the ring. That's what's going to happen. 30 years from now, I've got it all planned out. Then there'll be another fight, which Ige doesn't show up for because of contract negotiations, but they've kind of handed on the baton to Lopez's son, whose name is Cleed at that point. So there you go. That's what's going to happen for the next 30 years. Wow. It's almost like it wrote itself. How do I come up with these things?
I don't know, Lee. I don't know how you do it, buddy.
It's the creativity. AI can't do what I just did. I'm telling you.
That's right. That's right. AI definitely cannot do what you just did.
No, that was fun to think of on the spot.
Yes.
I love you, Stallone.
Yeah.
Ray, we've got 20
we got to get to the geek section. I don't even know how to transition.
You weren't expecting any of that.
There's no transition.
It popped in there, Ray, and I had to do it.
You know what I love, Lee? Star Wars.
You had transitions in there. That Draco Ige fight, kind of like the good side versus the bad side. Look, there's two sides to every Schwartz.
Absolutely. We talked about the Schwartz last week. We're going into the proper Star Wars force now. Star Wars Acolyte Episode 5, Episode 6 dropping tonight. Episode 5 has been out now for a week. I called it. Didn't I call it? I said it was that guy that she was with. Kamir is actually, he calls himself a Sith. We don't know if he's a proper Sith Lord, but he calls himself a Sith. There's so much in Episode 5 to unpack here. From basically the Jedi completely thrown off guard by the supposed Sith Lord, the red lightsaber.
Well, the Sith. He's just Sith. Let's just streamline this whole thing. Yeah. Long story short, some of the best lightsaber action you're ever going to see.
100%. I said it last week. It might be the best lightsaber battle I've ever seen.
A lot of the Jedi die. If you're watching the show, you saw it.
Yes.
Let's just jump to the big questions on Action News tonight. All right. The big questions are this: Is the Sith the master of the apprentice? My gut tells me he is the apprentice.
Yes.
And he is trying to find another apprentice so he can take on whoever his master is at this time. Could possibly be Darth Plagueis. We don't know. I expect some big reveal at the end. Then the other big question is Saul, who is clearly conflicted, clearly has a dark side. We do not know where he's going to go. Ray and I discussed this yesterday. There might be a turn to the dark side there. There might be a sacrifice. And then there's the sisters, which no one at this point really cares about.
The sisters are such an afterthought for being the main character. It's like you have this great Star Wars story, and then you jam in this Disney garbage where it's like, we're going to do a Parent Trap moment now, and we're going to switch the twins.
Yeah, for now.
And it's like, why? Like, why? And there's so much there because now May is with Soul. And it appears that Soul doesn't realize it because May gave herself a haircut. It appears. I say it appears doesn't mean he doesn't realize it.
Fair enough. It appears on the surface, but there was definitely a hesitation there from him. Like he knew who she was.
Whereas Osha is with Kamir, who clearly knows that's not May.
Right. And what's going to be awesome here is that I believe Kamir is going to awaken the Force. The Force will awaken.
Fully awakened in Osha,
and then I don't know where it goes from there. Most likely some scenario where someone goes, "Join me, and together we can blah 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 blah."
Yeah,
but I do like the Force side of this show right now,
100%,
and the conflict. From a larger Star Wars canon standpoint, in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's actually Kit who says, they've been gone for a millennia, right? So if they're going to keep that line, they talked about the Sith.
Yeah.
If they're going to keep that line canon,
yeah,
no one can know about what's happening, which means either, and most likely, everyone will die.
Everyone dies.
All right. Or something's going to happen where they're out of the Star Wars universe.
Right. They go away somewhere else.
In a different place, right? There's no need for this to connect to the Mandoverse. I hope they don't try and do that. I don't need that. I don't want that.
No.
But it's going to be interesting. Look, there's a scenario here where I'm not entirely bought in that Yoda's not going to show up at some point.
Yeah. And at least as a cameo. Yeah.
But here's the deal. They've taken careful and they've hinted this in the show, Ray, that no one can know about what's happening. I forgot her name, the other Jedi Master. So it's very possible that some people do survive. And someone goes,
and this just gets swept under the rug. Nobody knows. Yeah, because they never go to that's right, because they never go to the council with this. They make a point to be like, we can't tell the council.
Go to the council, you can't tell everybody. But it would be kind of interesting if they go to Yoda and he goes, never must anyone know about what happened here. Happened here.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a possibility, but so much, like you mentioned, so much happened in this episode. First off, our first on-screen canon use of Cortosis ore. That is
which was awesome.
that Kmir's gauntlet and helmet is made of cortosis ore. For those who don't know, this is an element from the expanded universe. Yes. It is the first element that was specifically like mentioned in the Timothy Zahn expanded universe, that it is resistant to lightsabers and does exactly what we saw. A lightsaber hits cortosis ore and the lightsaber temporarily short circuits. The blade retracts and it kind of...
So for all of you watching, they're like, why are the lightsabers shutting off? It's because of the helmet the guy was wearing.
Yes, it is made of an element called cortosis ore that has been confirmed that it is made of cortosis, similar to Beskar in a way, like where Beskar doesn't cause the short circuit, but it's resistance to the damage from a lightsaber, right? It can't be harmed by a lightsaber. Cortosis ore goes as far as not only can't be harmed by a lightsaber, but can be disabling it.
It was cool to see it, actually. It was cool.
It was amazing to see it. It was amazing how he incorporated into his fight style.
Right.
I love the facts that what his name was, Yord or whatever, was like, he's not fighting in traditional combat.
And then Ray and I were like, God, techniques. I hope someone breaks your neck.
And then he did. It was great. It was great. So happy that almost so many people died. The only one I was sad about dying was Jackie. But again, to Lee's point, Soul, they've been teasing that Soul, almost like a Qui-Gon, is resistant to the Jedi teachings, wants to know more, kind of willing to work outside the typical Jedi boundaries that we are seeing here in full effect, very, very strict. And then Soul obviously has an attachment to Osha, obviously has an attachment to May.
And you're not supposed to have attachment as a Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like obviously has an attachment to Jecki. He's clearly visibly shaken when he finds out she's dead. Like it's
Which is not normal. Yeah.
Right. If anybody, that is, we'll go again, feeding into our theory, if anybody is going to turn, maybe not even fully turn, but walk away from the Jedi and possibly kind of cover this situation up, Soul is the linchpin to this entire thing. Yeah. And again, to Lee's point, I do believe there is going to be a Rule 2 element here where Kmir, much like Vader going to Luke to being like, we can overthrow the Empire together, Kmir looking for Osha or May or Soul, somebody to help him overthrow whoever his master is, and then whether or not they succeed or not, we'll have to see.
If Kmir is not part of the Rule of 2, I'm going to have a massive problem with this show.
100%, because the Rule of 2 was established 900 years before this.
It is one of the greatest parts of Star Wars. I don't believe they're not going to go that direction. Kmir also has that great line to Saul of, I've embraced my darkness. What have you done with yours? Which means he senses it in him. So I think what's likely to happen, Ray, likely, is that Kmir will be killed, and most likely by Saul, and then Saul will take his place as the apprentice to someone. And I wouldn't be surprised if this season ends with, you don't know who that someone is, but you know that there's another Lord out there.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens with the twins. I'm interested to see that. You know, what they could potentially do, I wouldn't like this, but I'm just putting it out there, is they could send them to another galaxy to kind of establish the witches in the galaxy that Ahsoka went to.
Right.
If they wanted to, it wouldn't be the worst ending, but it's not great. I'm interested to see what happens because the twins are not a dyad in the Force, right? You know, maybe they go to Dathomir. That would be a cool ending of they establish the Night Sisters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind that. That wouldn't bother me. But look, this series has my attention. It has my curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, but Ray and I said this, and we're going to put this out there now. Again, the new episode debuts tonight. This next episode it has to hit. It has to hit.
Yes.
Really,
yeah.
right?
We got to start getting ready to hit the home stretch now. They've done a great job of establishing everything again. I don't care if the parent trap, the twins switch places. That sort of irked me, but overall, very happy with where things are going. If they can stick the landing, right? This can easily come undone. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they go to Dathomir and they find baby Darth Maul or whatever, and then we have a Sith Lord babies spinoff. I just
think if they go to Dathomir and establish the Night Sisters, that would be an interesting turn.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? And likely one of them will die. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Actually, no, that probably couldn't work. I was going to say, what if one of them was like Darth Maul's mom or something?
No, like I don't think they're going to bring Maul into this. It's too early. Like it would be Darth Maul's grandparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think they can establish Maul.
It only just got me thinking because you mentioned Dathomir, and every time obviously when you think of Dathomir, the most famous Dathomirian, of course, is Darth Maul.
Yeah, I think they're going to stay away from that. I'm just saying if they establish the Night Sisters, because like they're dead, right? Like that's the idea of that one episode is all of the witches are dead.
Right.
So
the space witches, yeah.
I would not be surprised if Osha is killed and then what's her name? May goes to Dathomir. But look, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's an interesting situation, right? Yeah. It would be more likely that Saul, or if someone becomes a Sith Lord, or the Sith Lord sends them there to establish the Night Sisters.
Yeah,
that would make sense. But
actually, you know what would be really interesting is if Soul become so. Well, that'd be too much. I'd say if both Soul and May, or Soul and Osha go to the dark. If both of them go to the dark side,
yeah. Well, then they become master and apprentice. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, right? Like if those are the two, because there's also there is that slim possibility that Kamir has already killed his master, and he's just desperately looking. He's just desperately looking to fulfill the rule of two.
Yeah, because
he even mentioned he's like, I need an acolyte. I need an acolyte.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I would be surprised if that was what the case was, because it's a cooler reveal if there's another Sith Lord.
Oh, absolutely. Again, the hope is and I think this is the thing between us is we're hoping for Plagueis.
Yeah,
we're hoping to get Plagueis out of this.
It's a cool story, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's an last thing is we got to move on, but like,
yeah,
there's enough time here that you could actually build a young Palpatine into this in the future if you wanted to, and that wouldn't. It's not a bad story.
No, if you wanted to end it on Naboo and Sidious Palpatine is a kid, I mean that could work, right? Like
his rise to power is pretty fun story. So
yeah,
we'll see. I think you're talking multiple seasons at this point, but we'll see what happens.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're going to do a second season after this.
No, I don't either. It's establishing something though.
Absolutely. Well, something we go from multiple seasons now to a spin-off. The Harley Quinn animated series on HBO Max that was, I'll say this, the best jokes in that show end up finding their way to TikTok. And you kind of like the highlights of the show are great, but the in-between moments between the highlights to me aren't enough to make the show as great as a lot of people think it is. I personally thought it was fine. I think the show's fine.
People like it because it's edgier than it's like, oh, they made it R-rated. That's what people like.
They're not used to that from DC Animation. Well, one of the biggest things that come out of that show, of course, is Kite Man.
Kite Man.
Hell yeah. And they're doing a spin-off for Kite Man now with Bane. I guess Bane almost has his sidekick, which is funny, weird but funny. But I think my concern is that this is going to be much like Harley Quinn, where I think it's going to be the highlights are going to end up on their way to TikTok, and I don't need to watch the whole show because of that. So, but it's great that they're doing this. It's good to see that universe is expanding. It's good for what's her name? Let's say Kaylee Cuoco and her production company. So good for her. But yeah, I mean, and hey, it's more voiceover work. It's more animation is always good. But as I said last week, the thing I'm most excited for isn't for the Batman universe isn't even going to be on Max. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. I'm waiting for Batman Cape Crusader. Yeah, but Kite Man, hell yeah, is coming in August, I believe.
Well, and I think this is off the victory that was John Cena as Peacemaker.
Yes,
to start to understand this. Actually, Ray, I'm gonna if it's okay with you, I'm actually gonna merge this into the next topic if you want to introduce it, because I think that they're congruent with each other.
Oh, okay. Well, the next one, this was an interesting thing. This came out a couple of weeks ago. This is a news story that's been a lot of data has been being collected by toy companies and sales and marketing places and whatnot. It's not that surprising. As I kind of put on our notes, dumb people are shocked. But
dumb people.
Adults, specifically in me and Lee's generation, we'll say the 21 to 49-year-old demographic.
I think it's more 30 plus, but that's right.
Yeah. Are buying, it's now found out to be they are the toy demographic. They are the demographic that is buying more toys than any other demographic right now, even finally surpassing the usually the number one demographic, which is preschoolers. A lot of preschool toys, but adults are buying and spending more money on toys now than any other demographic. And yeah, folks, this is what happens when you don't have houses or kids. So,
there's a few things here. Number one is, yes, that's one part of it. Number two is the understanding that not all kids, but action figures are not the main toy of children anymore. All right? They're not. The main toy of children are games.
Right.
And also, and this is where I'm going to merge them, when they watch television now, it's YouTube. Right. So while kids do watch cartoons and kids do play with toys, not to the extent that we did growing up in the 70s and the 80s and probably the first half of the 90s. Right. So these are now legacy toys, and they're toys that remind us of a different time, which is why we're still buying them and collecting them.
Right.
I have not seen people our age playing with these toys unless they're playing.
No, we keep them all in the box and then put them on display. There are
collectibles.
Trophies.
Same thing with animation. I think people have finally realized that it's adults watching animation, and you can make it rated R, which has been happening in the Far East for decades.
Yes.
So
yes, if you're smart, you can make it for everybody.
Right. Like, if you're smart, like they did with X-Men. But you see why I merged these together. So what's happening is the toys of yesteryear are still very relevant to us. They're very nostalgic to us, very retro to us. I have a Wolverine action figure behind me. So I think they're appealing to our childhood because we are in that buying age and we have the money to buy those toys.
Yes.
And the truth is this, as a parent of two, I don't remember getting a lot of action figures, and I don't remember being asked to get a lot of action figures. There's different toys. Most of them are games or digital in nature or iPad or apps, right? So I just think the market has completely changed for these toys.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And shows. I mean, again,
no, for sure.
X-Men 97. It's like, that sounds insane. If you even suggest that 15 years ago, it sounds like you're bringing back a show from the 90s. Look how well it did, right? Because they're appealing to the people that love those types of animation. What's going to be weird is what's going to happen in 20 years from now. But again, same reason why they are re-releasing old games now, right? From our childhood. Hey, play this on the Switch. Play this on the Xbox.
I am just playing now for the first time. I did System Shock a couple of weeks ago with the 30th anniversary edition. Ubisoft just released the 20th anniversary edition of Beyond Good and Evil, which I did not play the first time around. So I'm playing that now. Expect that review sometime in the next couple of weeks. But it's why you're getting all these anniversary editions, which it's great if somebody is interested in it, that they missed it the first time around or weren't even around. But B, to your point, it's playing to nostalgia. They just remade Super Mario RPG and the Legend of the Seven Stars, right?
And that was good games too. Like, let's just be honest, like the classics don't die.
Exactly. Good gameplay can last forever. It just needs a new coat of paint sometimes.
Yeah. And I would really like Ocarina of Time to come out again, but better.
I'm kind of surprised. Nintendo's kind of gotten to it. We're going to go on a tangent here. Nintendo has kind of gotten this thing now where they've gotten into a system of, we release a game, 10 years later, we release the HD version. They did it a couple of times with Ocarina. They might hold, and they haven't done that now in a while. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 30th anniversary edition in a couple of years.
I would hope so, because like what we have right now on the Switch Online is just the original 64 version.
Right.
But the controllers are not great. Like, I would like an updated controller. So like I had to explain to my son what the Z button was. It's a really interesting thing. I was like, well, we didn't have two joysticks back then, so the Z button was to center yourself. And what's funny is I started using it, and even I had underestimated how much I got used to two joysticks, because I really had to kind of relearn. Like it didn't take long. It was like riding a bike a little bit, but I'm like, oh yeah, the Z button is how I focus and get myself looking the direction.
Z targeting.
But I would love for them to re-release that with. I mean, you could update the controllers on that. Let's be honest.
Very easily. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what they'll do is we're 4 years away from the 30th anniversary of Ocarina. I think you'll have Switch 2 will be out by then. In fact, Switch 2 will probably be in its really hitting its prime.
A few years
stride by then, because I'm expecting Switch 2 to hit sometime next year. So by 2028, we should see. I think Ocarina 30th anniversary edition makes a ton of sense.
Considered by many the greatest game of all time. It is easily in the top 5 of every list.
100%. Everybody's list has that in the top 5. 100%.
I mean, it changed everything.
Absolutely.
As much as the original Legend of Zelda did too, but I mean, it didn't have as much competition.
The ability to explore a world in that sense in a game had never been done before in both 2D with the original Zelda, as you mentioned, and then later in 3D with Ocarina.
I'll tell you that, and this will be my final note for this episode. What Zelda did, in addition to what you just said, Ray, where Mario didn't do this originally, I think it's there a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Is you cared about Link.
Yeah.
cared about Zelda. When Link died,
there was a story.
But you felt something when Link would die. Like, I let him down, or I let Zelda down, or that I really have to save this. Yeah, but I have to save Princess Zelda at that time. It's different now. But with Mario, it's like, I died. Got to get the princess, but she's in another castle. In fact, and you can see that emulated when you
there were still arcadey elements to Mario Brothers,
right?
Whereas Legend of Zelda was meant to be
immersive.
Played in home and immersed in a single player story. Well, right? And there's even a multiplayer element to Mario, right? That you don't have with Zelda.
Well, but you see that in the games now with Mario Party and Mario Kart and any Mario All Stars. But and the point is this: is like Mario's very, very bubbly and fun, and like even you don't really die. Here we go. Yeah, you don't die in a Mario game. In Zelda, you die. Right. Well, excuse me, princess. By the way, quick note, gotta say it to end the show. Showed my kids that, and now my daughter and son are walking around the house. And the other day, my wife said something to them, and my daughter goes, "Well, excuse me, princess."
Oh, Jan must be thrilled.
Luckily, she had a clue. Like, what is that? I was like, "It's Legend of Zelda, the cartoon." She's like, "Oh, whack!" No, she didn't hit her. I'm just kidding. It's just really cute to hear a 7-year-old girl go, "Excuse me, princess." I love that she's doing it more than my son. Anyway,
amazing.
I did my dad duty. Link, we've got to get the Triforce.
Oh gosh! Hey, remember when there was one Triforce? Now there's 3 Triforces.
Right, I do.
Well, actually, there's actually always kind of 2 Triforces, but they kind of never really. They kind of
there was 2. In the show, there was 2.
Right, there was wisdom and courage, and it kind of then gets explained later. Well, then Ganon has to have a Triforce. Like, Ocarina established the
sages.
So technically, the 3 Triforces were established in Link to the Past.
Right.
But they weren't really established as power, wisdom, and courage until Ocarina. Yes. Right. You had the pendants in Link to the Past, and you had the 3 triangles making one triangle as the Triforce in Link to the Past. But then they are established as Link has courage, Zelda has wisdom, Ganon has power in Ocarina of Time. And then, of course, later on, it's be like, we're going to do this dance for the rest of time. Much later on. So.
It was really good. Anyway, I thought it was a funny little story to share. And I'll give a shout out to the cartoon. A little bit ahead of its time because Link is just kind of trying to do stuff to kiss Zelda the entire show. And Zelda's just like, nah, I'm good. Yeah. Which I'm like, yeah, good. That was a little forward thinking for that time.
Yes, absolutely. So
they did a good job on the Mario Brothers cartoon as well, where the princess is pretty much the most powerful person in the universe.
Yeah, she's the most important. I mean, and honestly, the cartoon was even ahead of its time because it also gave the princess fire flowers and Toad fire flowers sometimes, right? Where in the games, obviously, only Mario could and Luigi.
We grew up with these very powerful women and actual powerful women. Let's end the show there before I get myself canceled by accident. Yeah, everybody knows I am a very big proponent of that.
We are pro Princess Zelda and
yes. I anybody who's played Mario,
and they do no longer need to be saved by Link or Mario.
No, in fact, they're going to do the saving.
We are literally getting a game later this year where Zelda has to save Link. So.
Yeah, and we've gotten a Peach game too.
We've gotten a Peach game, several Peach games now, actually.
Games, right?
Anyway,
great show today. What a fun
one. Look at that, a dashed episode.
DoorDash dashed episode powered by DoorDash, the dash of the week.
Yes. But yes, we appreciate everybody. For Lee, I'm Ray. Come back next week. Have a great 4th of July. Be safe. Don't blow your hands off.
Don't do that.
We appreciate you all. This has been another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.